You've probably noticed it, haven't you? That strange moment in a room when someone walks in, and without uttering a word, everything shifts. The energy rearranges itself. People glance over, some go quiet, others straighten up. And you can feel it in your chest. They haven't said a thing, but somehow they've already taken control. And it bothers you, not because they did it, but because you've never really known how. You've been taught to believe that power comes from how loud you speak, how fast you think, how sharp your words are. But that's only true for people who don't understand the subtle mechanics of control. The real game, it's silent. And if you've ever felt underestimated, ignored, or talked over, then maybe you're ready to learn it. This isn't about being manipulative. It's about becoming unshakable. Most people think of power as something external: money, fame, dominance. But true control, it starts inside you. The kind that doesn't beg to be noticed. It demands nothing, and yet it changes everything around it. See, most people are reactive. They spend their lives explaining themselves, proving themselves, defending their choices. You don't have to. The more you explain, the less people believe you. The louder you try to appear strong, the more they sense your weakness, silence, restraint, calm. These aren't passive traits. They are calculated strategies, and when used with intent, they'll make you the most unpredictable person in any room. Foucault understood that power isn't something you hold, it's something you do. It's the quiet arrangement of conditions that make people bend around your presence without even realizing it. Power is relational. It flows through silence as easily as it flows through speech. And the less you rely on words, the more others project their fears, fantasies, and assumptions onto you. When you walk into a space, your posture speaks. Your eyes say more than your lips ever will. Your stillness, your slowness, the way you choose to delay response. Those are not signs of hesitation. They're tools, weapons, if you know how to wield them. Most people fill silence because they're afraid of what might surface in it. But if you can hold still while others squirm, you've already won. And here's something you might have never been told. Humans are terrible at dealing with ambiguity. If you give them no clear signal, they'll invent one. Leave your face unreadable, and they'll search it for meaning. Withhold reaction, and they'll chase it. They'll lean in trying to solve you, to decode you, and in doing that, they become emotionally invested. And once someone is emotionally invested, they're no longer rational. That's when you control them, even without trying. The most powerful person isn't the one who speaks with authority. It's the one who makes others question themselves without ever opening their mouth. You've probably had moments when someone stared too long, too calmly, and it unnerved you. That wasn't an accident. That was a decision. That was someone trained in the art of psychological influence. And now, that can be you. It begins with your presence, not presence in the theatrical sense, but presence in the sensory, visceral way. When you walk like you're not trying to go anywhere fast. When you stand, don't fidget. Don't signal insecurity. Let your stillness make others restless. Let your refusal to rush become an anchor in a sea of people flailing to be seen. There's something terrifyingly powerful about a person who listens more than they speak, observes more than they react, and acts only when it's absolutely necessary. These aren't signs of detachment. They are signs of surgical precision. Most people argue to win. You'll learn to let them talk themselves into defeat. They'll throw their opinions at you like darts, expecting you to defend yourself. But when you give them nothing, no reaction, no counterpoint, no emotional charge, They're left alone with their own noise, and they start to doubt it. People expect conflict. They expect resistance. So when you give them nothing, their frame collapses. They start looking inward. And if they've been trying to dominate you, that silence becomes a mirror, a sharp, unflinching mirror, one that shows them exactly how loud and clumsy they look. Let them fill the space. Let them reveal themselves. You don't need to say anything. You just need to know what not to say. Power doesn't need validation. It doesn't need performance. It lives in restraint, in subtle cues, in knowing that most communication is nonverbal, and that if you can master that, you'll never need to outtalk anyone again. There's a strange kind of magnetism that forms around someone who appears unbothered, not careless, just centered. The person who doesn't rush to speak, doesn't need to impress, and doesn't need to be understood. That's the person who ends up holding the strings, quietly, behind the curtain. And here's what no one tells you. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You just need to be the one they can't read. Mystery breeds obsession. Unpredictability breeds respect. People fear what they can't categorize. When you become that kind of person, quiet, unreadable, observant, you stop being someone they can manipulate and start being someone they instinctively adjust to. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to be liked. You need to be felt. Let your presence unsettle them. Let your eyes hold the silence too long. Let your movements be slow and deliberate, as if every action has meaning, even if it doesn't. They'll imagine it does. Because people project meaning onto blank spaces. When you say little, they'll invent reasons to explain your silence, and most of the time, they'll assume the reason is power. That's the illusion. That's how you win. And if you've ever been the kind of person who over-explains, over-apologizes, over-analyzes, this will feel like rebellion. And it is. You're rebelling against a system that taught you to beg for belonging, to shrink yourself in the name of connection. But silence can be a boundary. It can be a revolution, and it can be your new language. The less you say, the more control you gain over what people remember. Words scatter, silence echoes. And when you master that, when you speak only what must be said, and let the rest hang in the air like a question they're too afraid to answer, you stop being a participant in conversations. You become the architect of them. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You need to say less so others lean in. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who could say everything and chooses not to. They'll think about you more than they want to. Replay what little you did say. Obsess over what you didn't. Silence forces people inward. They start constructing narratives, wondering what you're thinking, what you meant, what you're hiding. And that's where the real control lies, not in giving answers, but in creating questions that have no resolution. There's a power in being misunderstood on purpose. Not out of malice, but out of design. Because when you control what parts of yourself are visible, you force people to interact with your mystery, not your reality. And most people, without realizing it, respect what they don't understand more than what they do. Think about the last time someone stared at you a little too long without blinking, and you felt that creeping discomfort, like they saw something in you didn't mean to show. That wasn't just a look. That was a statement. A silent one, sure, but it said everything. If you want to outsmart people without ever saying a word, start by understanding that most of them are on autopilot. They don't pay attention to detail, but you will. They don't listen without speaking, but you will. They reveal themselves out of nervousness, out of ego, out of the fear of being invisible, But you'll use your invisibility as leverage. Stillness can be weaponized. When you're calm in a situation that usually demands panic, you shift the balance of power. When you're quiet while others are loud, you gain clarity they don't have. You see the gaps between their words. You read their body, their eyes, their breath, their pace. You learn things no one ever tells you, things that were never meant to be said. This isn't about control for control's sake. It's about reclaiming your space in a world that never gave you permission to have any. It's about unlearning the need to prove yourself and replacing it with presence that speaks for itself. You won't always get recognition. That's fine. People might say you're cold, aloof, hard to read. Good. Those are symptoms of someone they can't manipulate. They'll learn to respect the boundaries your silence sets, even if they never say it out loud. There's something deeply philosophical in this. Foucault believed that surveillance wasn't just about watching. It was about inducing a state where people monitor themselves. You can apply this in reverse. Your silence becomes the surveillance. Your lack of expression makes them self-conscious. Your stillness creates a pressure they can't locate. And that discomfort will make them adjust, behave, hesitate. You don't need to attack people to break their defenses. Just refuse to play the games they're used to winning. Don't reward their provocations. Don't fill the space when they bait you with silence. Let the silence sit. Let it stretch. Let them squirm. Every time you respond less than expected, you disrupt their script. And when people don't know what comes next, they become predictable. That's when you lead without moving. And here's the part you need to remember. Your silence is not passive. It's an active decision, a form of communication, a display of self-trust. It says, I don't need to be loud to be powerful. I don't need to be seen to have influence. I'm not performing. People might call you distant, unemotional. Let them. Your goal isn't to be understood. It's to be undeniable. And in moments where you do speak, you'll notice something. People will listen harder. Because when words are rare, they carry weight. You'll say less, but you'll say what matters. And in a world of noise, that's the loudest thing you can do. Even your smallest actions will start to ripple. A glance, a pause, the choice to say nothing. You'll begin to see how fragile most performances are when they meet someone who doesn't clap. You'll see how desperate people are to be mirrored, validated, confirmed, and how refusing to give them that makes them rethink everything. Sometimes the smartest move is letting others expose themselves while you remain a question they can't answer. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. And it will take strength, especially if you've spent your life trying to be liked, accepted, understood. But when you learn to prioritize impact over approval, you start becoming the kind of person people don't forget. You don't need to be feared, you need to be felt. You don't need to dominate, you need to destabilize, and silence, stillness, restraint. These are tools that do exactly that, in ways that words never could. So start small. The next time you feel the urge to fill a silence, don't. The next time someone tries to provoke you, stay still. Let them carry the burden of the moment. Watch them, learn them, and say nothing. At least not yet. Because when you speak only after you've listened, really listened, your words will cut deeper. Your choices will land harder. And the room will remember you. Not because you talked over everyone, but because you didn't need to. There's a point where you begin to see the patterns, where silence becomes a lens, and every person becomes transparent under it. You start noticing what they rush to hide, the way their hands twitch when they lie, The way their voice rises when they're unsure. The way they talk too much when they want to seem confident. It's all there, out in the open, if you're quiet enough to watch. And suddenly you realize something no one told you. Growing up, most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. They're not reading you. They're waiting for a chance to be heard. But you're different now. You've learned that. To outsmart people, you don't have to outtalk them. You just have to understand them better than they understand themselves. People reveal themselves in ways they don't even realize, in how quickly they speak, in what they avoid, in the questions they never ask. You start becoming fluent in a language they don't even know they're speaking, the subconscious one, the one built from tension, glances, pauses, and that's where their truths live. Not in what they say, but in what they can't stop themselves from showing. And when you stay silent long enough, people start filling the silence with confessions they never meant to say. They overcorrect. They backpedal. They try to decode you. They mistake your quiet for disapproval, your stillness for superiority. They project authority onto you because they're too uncomfortable not to. And once they've done that, you've already stepped into their mind. You'll learn to walk into a negotiation and say the least. You'll learn to let them pitch themselves into corners. You'll watch how people trap themselves with their own words just to break the silence you control. And you'll never have to raise your voice, because you'll be the one setting the pace. Even in conflict, you'll have the edge. People expect emotional reactions. But when you respond with composure, with still eyes and a calm tone, or none at all, you starve the fire. You refuse to feed the game. And in that vacuum, they lose traction. They look unreasonable, unbalanced. You look in control. Control isn't about speaking with dominance. It's about making others speak to you differently. They'll start second-guessing their words before they say them. They'll adjust their tone, rethink their arguments, hold back their judgments, because they don't know what you're thinking. And what they can't predict, they start to fear. Respect is just fear made polite. Even in personal relationships, this applies. When you stop explaining yourself, people start respecting your boundaries. When you stop justifying your emotions, they start accepting them. When you don't rush to fill silences in awkward moments, you force clarity. You signal, I'm not here to perform comfort. I'm here to be real. And not everyone will like that. Some will pull away. Some will resent it. But that's good, because the people who stay, the ones who lean into your quiet presence instead of running from it, those are the ones who are worth your energy. The rest? Let them chase noise. You've learned the value of stillness. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot put his thoughts on ice should not enter into the heat of dispute." That's what this really is. Learning to freeze your need to be heard, to delay the gratification of performance, to embrace the discomfort of being unreadable, knowing that discomfort is the very thing that bends people toward you. This isn't passive. This is presence. Real presence. The kind that comes from knowing you don't need to prove anything. The kind that comes from finally believing that your silence is not a weakness. It's a strategy. It's a statement. It's enough. And maybe the most surprising thing about this shift is how peaceful it feels. How light you become when you stop carrying the pressure to always be understood. When you realize that you don't owe anyone your reactions. You don't owe them your vulnerability on demand. You don't owe them your words, especially when those words are meant only to soothe their discomfort with your strength. You get to decide when you speak and when you don't. And in that decision, you gain something rare: control over the frame, the context, the perception. You become the calm one, the measured one, the person who doesn't react out of impulse but out of insight. And people trust that, or they fear it. Either way, you hold the weight in the room. This isn't about being cold. It's about being conscious. So when you walk through the world now, let your silence be purposeful. Let your presence speak before your mouth ever does. Let your attention be sharp. Let your calm be unsettling. Let your stillness speak louder than their noise. Because now you know, outsmarting someone doesn't mean outthinking them in a debate. It means outfeeling them in a moment. It means understanding the terrain better. And most of that terrain isn't out there. It's in here. Your mind, your emotions, your ability to sit with discomfort until it turns into clarity. You've always had this power. You were just taught to speak over it. Now you've learned to let it speak for you. Quietly, unforgettably, completely. In a debate, it means outfeeling them in a moment. It means understanding the terrain better. And most of that terrain isn't out there. It's in here. Your mind, your emotions, your ability to sit with discomfort until it turns into clarity. You've always had this power. You were just taught to speak over it. Now you've learned to let it speak for you. Quietly, unforgettably, completely.